Most men don't realize this. Your testosterone peaks every morning between 6 and 9 a.m., and what you do in that window determines your erection quality long term. Most men waste it completely. Today I'm going to show you 5 habits that take less than 20 minutes and can start fixing that in the next 30 days. I'm Dr. Doris Cole, certified men's sex therapist with over 15 years of clinical experience working with men and couples. In my clinical practice, I work with men every single day who are dealing with declining erection quality, reduced morning erections, and lower sexual confidence. And in the majority of cases, the first question I ask them is this: what does your morning look like? Because what happens in the first hour after you wake up is more directly connected to your erectile health than most men ever realize. And once you understand why and what to do about it, the path forward becomes very clear. Today, I am going to give you a complete 30-day morning protocol. 5 specific habits, less than 20 minutes total, backed by clinical research and structured in the exact sequence that produces the maximum compounding effect on your testosterone and erectile health. Stay with me through all 5 because the sequence matters as much as the habits themselves. If you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. Every week, I publish research-backed content specifically for men who want to take their sexual health seriously. Hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a video. Before we get into the 5 habits, you need to understand why morning specifically, because this is not arbitrary timing. This is biology. Testosterone follows a daily cycle called the diurnal rhythm. It begins rising during sleep, driven by the same growth hormone and luteinizing hormone surges that occur during deep sleep cycles. By the time you wake up, testosterone is approaching its daily peak. That peak occurs between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. for most men. After 9 a.m., testosterone begins its gradual decline. By evening, it is at its lowest point of the day. This is why morning erections exist. They are the visible expression of the overnight testosterone build reaching its peak while you are still in a semi-sleep state. Now here is what most men do not understand. That testosterone peak is not fixed. It is not guaranteed. What you do in the first 30 to 60 minutes of your morning either supports and amplifies that peak, or it actively suppresses it. Checking your phone immediately on waking, which triggers cortisol through stress and information overload, begins suppressing testosterone within minutes of the alarm going off. Skipping breakfast or eating a high-sugar meal spikes insulin, which directly inhibits testosterone synthesis. Staying indoors and sedentary in the morning misses the critical sunlight and movement signals that the hypothalamus needs to sustain the testosterone surge. Most men do all 3 of these things every single morning and wonder why their erections are weaker than they used to be. The 5 habits I am about to give you work in the opposite direction. Each one is specifically chosen because it directly supports the hormonal and vascular mechanisms that produce firm, reliable erections. Together, in sequence, they create a compound effect that builds over 30 days into something measurable and real. Let me walk you through each one. The 5 morning habits. Habit 1, cold water exposure. 30 to 60 seconds, time required 1-2 minutes. I am going to start with the one that surprises men most, because the research behind it is genuinely remarkable. Cold water exposure, specifically ending your morning shower with 30 to 60 seconds of cold water, has been shown in research published in Medical Hypotheses to produce a significant increase in luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is the primary signal the brain sends to the testes to produce testosterone. One study found a 198% increase in luteinizing hormone following cold water exposure. To put that number in context, that is nearly a doubling of the primary testosterone production signal from standing under cold water for less than 1 minute. But the testosterone benefit is not the only mechanism at work here. Cold water exposure also produces a significant increase in dopamine, the brain's primary motivation and reward chemical. Research has documented dopamine increases of up to 250% following cold exposure, and that dopamine surge directly supports sexual motivation, desire, and the neurological systems that drive erectile function. Cold water also triggers vasoconstriction, the narrowing of blood vessels, followed immediately by a powerful vasodilation response as the body warms back up. This vascular cycling is essentially a cardiovascular workout for your blood vessels, and the penile arteries benefit from this the same way any other vascular structure does. Regular cold exposure trains your vascular system to respond more powerfully to arousal signals. How to do it? Finish your morning shower with 30 seconds of cold water, not lukewarm, cold. Start with 15 seconds if needed and build up. By the end of week 1, most men are managing 45 to 60 seconds comfortably. By the end of week 2, it feels normal. What to expect? Most men notice a significant increase in alertness and energy within the first 3 days. By days 7 to 10, the cumulative testosterone and dopamine effects begin to express as improved mood, stronger morning erections, and increased libido. This is one of the fastest acting habits on this list. Habit 2, morning sunlight exposure, 10 minutes. Time required, 10 minutes. This is the most underestimated habit on this entire list, and it is the one with some of the most direct research behind it for testosterone specifically. Research from the University of Utah found that men exposed to bright natural light in the morning showed significant increases in testosterone levels, with the effect most pronounced when the light exposure occurred within 30 minutes of waking. The mechanism is direct and well documented. Morning sunlight, specifically the blue spectrum light present in natural outdoor light in the early hours, activates the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the master hormonal regulator of the brain. When it receives the morning light signal, it releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which triggers the pituitary gland to release luteinizing hormone, which tells the testes to produce testosterone. This entire cascade depends on receiving that initial morning light signal. Men who wake up and stay indoors under artificial light throughout the morning are not sending that signal. The cascade does not fully initiate, and testosterone production for that day is lower than it would otherwise be. There is a second mechanism at work here as well. Morning sunlight directly suppresses melatonin, the sleep hormone. The speed at which melatonin drops in the morning determines the sharpness of the cortisol morning peak. A sharp, fast cortisol peak in the morning, which sounds counterintuitive, is actually healthy and beneficial. It provides energy and alertness and drops quickly. This is completely different from the chronic elevated cortisol of stress, which suppresses testosterone. Morning sunlight calibrates this entire rhythm correctly. And there is a third benefit. Morning sunlight on the skin produces vitamin D3, which is not just a vitamin, but a hormone precursor. Vitamin D deficiency is one of the most consistently documented correlates of low testosterone in research literature. Men with optimal vitamin D levels have significantly higher testosterone than men who are deficient. 10 minutes of morning sun exposure meaningfully contributes to your daily vitamin D synthesis. How to do it. Step outside within 30 minutes of waking. You do not need direct sunlight on your face, though that helps. You simply need to be outdoors in natural light. This can be combined with the morning walk in Habit 5 to save time. Do not wear sunglasses during this window. The light needs to reach your eyes to activate the hypothalamic response. What to expect? Improved sleep quality typically appears within 1 to 2 weeks because morning light calibrates your circadian rhythm, which improves sleep architecture at night, which improves NPT cycles and testosterone recovery during sleep. It is a compound effect that builds from both ends simultaneously. Habit 3, morning pelvic floor activation, 5 minutes time required, 5 minutes. We have covered pelvic floor training in previous videos on this channel, but what most men do not know is that timing matters significantly for pelvic floor work specifically. Research confirms that the ischiocavernosus and bulbocavernosus muscles, the two pelvic floor muscles directly responsible for erection firmness and ejaculatory force, are most responsive to activation training during the morning testosterone peak. Training these muscles when testosterone is highest produces faster strength and coordination gains than the same training performed in the evening. This makes biological sense. Testosterone is the primary anabolic hormone. It drives muscle protein synthesis and neuromuscular adaptation. Training during peak testosterone is not just better for large muscle groups. It is better for the pelvic floor specifically because these muscles are androgen sensitive. They respond to testosterone the same way any skeletal muscle does. The morning pelvic floor routine I recommend takes 5 minutes and works both strength and coordination because both matter for erectile function. The routine: start lying on your back with knees bent. Take 3 slow diaphragmatic breaths, breathing fully into the belly and allowing the pelvic floor to drop and release completely on each exhale. This releases any overnight tension before you begin training. Then perform 10 slow Kegel contractions, lifting the pelvic floor fully upward on a 4 count, holding for 4 counts at peak contraction, then releasing completely on a 4 count. Do not rush. The release is as important as the contraction. Full release trains the muscle through its complete range of motion rather than just the shortened contracted range. Follow with 10 reverse Kegels, actively pushing the pelvic floor downward and outward on the exhale, as if gently bearing down. This trains the antagonist movement and prevents the hypertonicity, chronic tension that we have established in previous videos as one of the primary causes of rapid ejaculation. Finish with 10 glute bridges, squeezing the pelvic floor at the top of each bridge and releasing on the way down. This adds functional load to the pelvic floor work and strengthens the posterior chain simultaneously. 5 minutes, done, and performed at the optimal hormonal window of your entire day. What to expect? Most men notice improved awareness of their pelvic floor within the first week. By weeks 2 to 3, measurable improvements in ejaculatory control typically begin. By week 4, erection firmness improvements become noticeable. The research on pelvic floor rehabilitation for erectile function documents 82% of men showing significant improvement within 4 to 6 weeks of consistent training. Habit 4, zinc-rich breakfast. 15 minutes time required, 15 minutes to prepare and eat. This habit sounds the simplest, but the research behind zinc and testosterone is some of the most consistent and most clinically significant in male endocrinology. Zinc is not just a mineral, it is a direct cofactor in testosterone synthesis. The enzyme that converts cholesterol into testosterone, the first step in the entire testosterone production pathway, requires zinc to function. Without adequate zinc, that conversion cannot proceed efficiently, and testosterone production is suppressed at the most fundamental biochemical level. Research published in Nutrition confirms that zinc supplementation in zinc-deficient men produces significant testosterone increases, in some studies doubling testosterone levels within 6 weeks. Even men who are not clinically deficient, but who are at the low end of normal zinc status, show measurable testosterone improvements from optimizing their zinc intake. The morning timing of zinc consumption is important. Zinc absorption is highest when consumed with protein. And in the morning fasted state, the gut is maximally prepared to absorb minerals. Consuming zinc with your morning meal maximizes the amount that actually reaches the bloodstream rather than passing through unabsorbed. The highest zinc-containing foods are oysters by a significant margin, containing more zinc per serving than any other food, followed by red meat, eggs, pumpkin seeds, cashews, chickpeas, and dairy. A practical morning meal for maximum zinc delivery: 3 eggs scrambled. Eggs contain both zinc and vitamin D3 as well as cholesterol, which is the raw material for testosterone synthesis. Add a small handful of pumpkin seeds. This combination gives you zinc, vitamin D, and testosterone precursors in a single meal that takes 10 minutes to prepare. What to avoid in the morning: high sugar cereal, white bread, fruit juice, and processed foods. These spike insulin rapidly, and insulin elevation suppresses testosterone synthesis directly. Starting your day with a high glycemic meal is one of the most consistently documented ways to suppress your morning testosterone peak before it can fully express. What to expect: zinc optimization takes longer to express than the other habits on this list because it is working at the biochemical level of hormone synthesis rather than at the neurological or vascular level. Most men notice changes at the 3 to 4 week mark, which is why the 30-day commitment matters. The compounding effect of 4 weeks of optimal zinc intake produces meaningful testosterone support that continues to build beyond the 30-day window. Habit 5. 10-minute morning walk time required. 10 minutes. The simplest habit on this list, and one of the most vascularly significant. Walking, specifically morning walking, triggers endothelial nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is the molecule responsible for arterial relaxation and vasodilation, the same mechanism that erectile dysfunction medications work through pharmacologically. The difference is that walking produces nitric oxide naturally through the mechanical shear stress of blood moving through arterial walls during light cardiovascular activity. Research confirms that regular morning walking measurably improves penile blood flow markers, specifically flow-mediated dilation, which is the clinical measure of how well arterial walls respond to increased blood demand. Flow-mediated dilation is directly correlated with erectile function. Men with better flow-mediated dilation have better erections, and morning walking improves this marker consistently over 4 to 6 weeks of daily practice. The morning timing has an additional benefit beyond the vascular mechanism. Morning walking, performed outdoors, combines the sunlight exposure of habit 2 with the nitric oxide production of cardiovascular activity. These two effects are synergistic. Sunlight on the skin during movement amplifies vitamin D synthesis and the hypothalamic light signal simultaneously with the vascular benefits of the walk itself. 10 minutes is the minimum effective dose. Research confirms that even 10 minutes of brisk walking per day produces measurable cardiovascular and vascular health improvements over 4 weeks. You do not need to run. You do not need a gym. You need 10 minutes outside moving at a pace that slightly elevates your heart rate. How to do it? Step outside within 45 minutes of waking. Walk briskly, not strolling, for 10 minutes. This can be the same 10 minutes as your sunlight exposure. You are combining habits 2 and 5 into one 10-minute outdoor walk, which brings your total morning routine time to approximately 20 minutes rather than 25. What to expect? The energy and mood benefits of morning walking are felt almost immediately within the first 2 to 3 days. Vascular improvements that express as better erectile function typically accumulate over 2 to 4 weeks. By day 30, flow-mediated dilation improvements are measurable, and the compound effect of 30 consecutive days of morning nitric oxide production is expressed as meaningfully improved penile blood flow. Your complete 30-day morning protocol. Here is exactly how to sequence all 5 habits into a 20-minute morning routine. Step 1, wake up action. Do not check your phone. Get up immediately. Time, 0 minutes. Step 2, minutes 1 to 2. Action. Cold shower finish. 30 to 60 seconds of cold water. Time, minutes. Step 3, minutes 2 to 7. Action. Pelvic floor activation routine. Lying on your back. Time, minutes. Step 4, minutes 7 to 17. Action. Outdoor walk. Combine sunlight exposure simultaneously. Time, 10 minutes. Step 5, minutes 17 to 32. Action, zinc-rich breakfast, eggs and pumpkin seeds. Time, 15 minutes. Total active habit. Time, 20 minutes. Total morning routine with breakfast, 35 minutes. What to expect, week by week. Week 1, days 1 to 7. The changes in week 1 are primarily neurological and energetic rather than sexual. Most men notice significantly improved morning alertness, driven by the cold exposure and sunlight combination. Sleep quality begins improving by days 4 to 5 as the morning light calibration of the circadian rhythm begins taking effect. Some men notice slightly stronger morning erections by days 5 to 7, particularly those who are most deficient in morning sunlight and movement. Week 2, days 8 to 14. This is typically when the first sexual health changes become noticeable. Morning erection frequency often increases during this week, as NPT cycles begin benefiting from improved sleep architecture and testosterone support. The pelvic floor training begins producing noticeable improvements in ejaculatory awareness and control. Energy levels are consistently higher throughout the day, driven by the compounding testosterone and dopamine effects of cold exposure and morning light. Week 3, days 15 to 21. Vascular improvements from the daily morning walk begin expressing as noticeably improved erection quality, specifically firmness and sustainability. The zinc optimization is beginning to support testosterone synthesis at the biochemical level. Most men in week 3 report feeling meaningfully different, more energized, more confident, and more sexually present than they did at day 1. Week 4, days 22 to 30. The full compound effect of all 5 habits working simultaneously for 4 weeks becomes clearly visible. Erection firmness is measurably improved for the majority of men. Morning erections are more frequent and more firm. Ejaculatory control is noticeably better, libido is higher, and the habits have become automatic. They no longer require willpower because they have become the default morning pattern. The 44 plus, specific context for men over 44, this morning protocol is not just beneficial. It is arguably essential. Here is why. After 44, 3 things happen simultaneously that make the morning window increasingly critical. First, testosterone decline becomes more pronounced. The natural 1 to 2% annual decline that begins at 30 accelerates slightly after 44. This means the morning peak, while still present, is lower than it was at 30. Supporting that peak with every available tool becomes proportionally more important. Second, sleep architecture changes. Men over 44 spend less time in the deep, slow wave sleep and REM cycles that drive overnight testosterone production and NPT maintenance. The morning habits that support the hormonal environment, cold exposure, sunlight, movement, partially compensate for the reduced overnight production by maximizing what the morning peak can deliver. Third, vascular health becomes more critical. Age-related changes in arterial elasticity mean that the vascular health benefits of morning walking and cold exposure have a proportionally larger impact on erectile function after 44 than they did at 30. The habits that maintain and improve penile blood flow are doing heavier lifting as the years pass. Your testosterone peaks every morning between 6 and 9 a.m. That peak is your daily opportunity to support the hormonal, vascular, and neurological systems that determine your erection quality long-term. 5 habits, 20 minutes, 30 days, cold water exposure for the testosterone and dopamine surge, morning sunlight for the hypothalamic testosterone signal and circadian calibration, pelvic floor activation at peak testosterone for maximum muscle adaptation, a zinc-rich breakfast to support testosterone synthesis at the biochemical level, and a 10-minute morning walk for nitric oxide production and penile blood flow. Each habit works independently. Together, in sequence, at the optimal morning hormonal window, they create a compound effect that 30 days of consistency converts into something measurable, real, and lasting. Start tomorrow morning, not next week, tomorrow. The window opens between 6 and 9 a.m. What you do in it is your choice. If you are going to commit to this 30-day challenge, drop a comment below right now and tell me you are starting tomorrow. I read every comment personally, and knowing you have committed makes it more real. In 30 days, come back to this video and tell me what changed. I want to hear your results. Share this with a man in your life who needs to hear it. And if you are not subscribed, do it right now. Every week on this channel, real research, real clinical experience, real answers for men who take their health seriously. Hit subscribe and the bell. I'm Dr. Doris Cole. Stay sharp. I'll catch you in the next video.